Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome to an unusual edition of the Gary Neville podcast. Jamie Carragher was always going to be our special guest.
Was he?
Yes. And I think it's kind of appropriate after what we've witnessed at Anfield. But it's your podcast, Gary. You should have the first say on Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0.
Look, I'm not... When Manchester United come here, you can lose a football match at any point in Manchester United's existence. And in Liverpool's existence, it's a tough place to come, the toughest place to come. I'm so shocked by that second half, though. My first and immediate thought is that they have to get back on the bike very quickly. And I think they've got Betis on Thursday, Southampton next week, and prove that that's just a freak. And that isn't, if you like, going to sort of damage them and scar them more mentally and physically, because they've obviously been riding the crest of a wave for the last few weeks. They've played a lot of big games. They've come back in a lot of games and they've been stretched. They've got to make sure that they get back quickly to winning ways and that doesn't, if you like, become 2 and become 3 and all of a sudden you sort of start to have a disappointing end to the season. Because Liverpool are going to be hunting them down now for that 4th place. They're going to be buoyant. Obviously Tottenham are struggling a little bit at this moment in time. Newcastle have got a free run to the end of the season. Manchester United have still got Europa League games and FA Cup games, so my immediate thought is just making sure that's a blip. So Alex Ferguson, I think, used that word once when we had a bad defeat, and it quite often was a blip, and we'd go and win the week after, and all of a sudden sort of normal services resume. But that is a terrible, terrible second half. It's shocker, absolute shocker. You know, to have a team with, and people who I've admired and loved in this last few weeks wearing those United shirts, so I don't think it's the time to really go hard at them today.
No, but can you recall 45 minutes where the lack of effort and
that's out of character for what these players have been. You know, Martinez, Varane, Shaw, Casemiro, Fernandes, Fred, Rashford. That spine have really held it together in this last few months, and they've been tough. They've been resilient. We've called them streetwise and cute and all those sort of words that you want to be called as a football team. Tenacious, spirited. But that in the second half was an absolute disgrace. I start with the captain because you're the captain of the football club. I thought Bruno out there in that second half, he can wind you up sometimes anyway, Bruno, the way he is. But that was appalling in the second half. The rest of them, to be fair, didn't show up. Luke Shaw's played the worst game I've seen in a long, long time. I think he's been brilliant this season. The whole back four were a disgrace. And like I say, it's got to be a one-off. That's it, it's got to be a one-off. Because that can't become the norm. That's just going to be put down as something that we never see again.
Jamie, from the Liverpool point of view, you hope it's not a one-off.
No, I mean, that was watching Liverpool's second half back to how they were 3 or 4 years ago when Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp were at their absolute best, where no one could cope with them. You know, the intensity, how quickly he got the ball back, and we saw that in that second half. I haven't watched the first half. It was a typical Liverpool performance that we've seen this season. Start quite well, don't quite get the goal, and then a little bit of nerves set in. You start thinking, is the defensive frailties there? But from Manchester United's point of view, the thing that really stood out for me is there's been a lot of players talked up as, you know, this team's getting built around the 2 centre-backs. Go back to the cup final, basically. The 2 centre-backs, Casemiro in front and Rashford at the top end of the pitch. Rashford's got to score in the first half. You have to score that goal. What a chance that was. And the game is completely different. But to see Martinez and Casemiro on the bench and Varane not cover himself in glory, I mean, I thought it was a really bad day for them. Not as players. We know they're really good players, but in terms of the personality, because that's what they talked about. You know, you can have a bad game, and I just thought they went lacking, they went missing in a lot of moments. But from Liverpool's point of view, the thing that really excites me is the fact that Firmino comes on. We know Mane's gone. Was that the sort of first glimpse of something that we can see over the next sort of 2 or 3 years in terms of the front three? I thought Gakpo was outstanding. Mo Salah was his normal electric self. Núñez, maybe for people outside, don't realise almost the actual love the Liverpool fans have for him, because he's had a lot of criticism for missing big chances, but every time you watch him play, it just feels like you're on edge. You're not sure what's going to happen, and it's always electric. At times, yes, he's got to be more clinical, we know that, but 2 at home to Manchester United in the 7-0 win, and some of the goals he's got this season as performances as well, it just doesn't feel right now watching Liverpool without Núñez in that team and the actual physicality he gives the team. But Liverpool have to obviously use this, of course they will, but in the last few weeks there's been talk of Liverpool being back. I've never really believed it, if I'm being totally honest.
It was another clean sheet today.
It was, but watching that first half you still feel, oh, something's not quite right. But that second half does give you that belief that if you can play with that energy and that intensity in the second half of a game, not the first 20 minutes, and do that to one of the best teams in the country, let's not forget that, You know, the first 2 games of the season for Manchester United, obviously awful, but since then, I think points-wise, they've been almost as good as Arsenal and Manchester City. So we are talking about one of the top teams in the country for a lot of the time this season. To beat them 7-0, absolutely out of this world from Liverpool. In second half, I mean, it was just, it was like getting the band back together.
I think it's, look, I think we'd both be stupid to say that that's the Manchester United gone and that's Liverpool back. I think you have to do that over a period of months and, you know, over a season.
But there's losing and losing, isn't there?
Oh, Martin, look, I'm trying to think of that. There was a week, I think it was 6 days, where we went to Southampton, lost 6-3, I think, and we lost 5-0 the week after at Newcastle. It felt like the world was ending. It was a crisis. And that's the only time I can remember having defeats where we had 6 and 5 scored against us that badly. There was one after I left, I think, when we lost to City 6-2, if you remember, where
6-1 at home.
6-1, sorry, yeah. So there have been those types, you know, when Sir Alex Ferguson has had those types of days in his tenure at Manchester United. He famously got beat in a derby, I think 5-0, very early on in his reign. So these defeats can happen. And look, this ground can do things to you that others can't. It can honestly harm you. It can swallow you up. We've seen great European teams come here and lose 3 and 4 goals. We've seen I've seen City come here a few years ago, just fall apart. I think Edison made a mistake and they all of a sudden just collapsed. That's the Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. This happens to the best of teams. This ground can eat you up. So this is not unusual to see Manchester United get beat here. Even 3-4-0, that's happened in the last few seasons. But 7, and the way in which those players who've built up so much trust and credit in the last few weeks to fall apart in the way in which they did was really worrying, really worrying. But I've got faith in Erik ten Hag. Early on in the season, after that 4-0, the Ronaldo saga, the Maguire saga, the issue with Rashford, the Sancho, all these things that have happened to him, he's recovered very quickly and sort of, if you like, decisively, and he'll not take that, you know, if you like. The one thing I would worry about a little bit is that team could be running on empty a little bit, and they've been going on for the last, you know, they've been playing Wednesday, Saturday, and they haven't got a great squad. They've got a lot of players, spent a lot of money.
And 1 defeat in 22. They were churning it out.
But they're always having to bring, if they try and leave Casemiro out and Rashford out like they did the other night to rest them, they're always having to bring them on to win the game. So they can never truly rest their first 11 because they haven't got that quality for some reason. Well, we know why, because the recruitment's been poor. But what I'm saying to you is that the worry is that what damage does that do physically and mentally on them? They've got to get back on this, I say, back on it quickly, because that could sort of, if you like, damage the last part of the season. And I think Erik ten Hag, he's been absolutely wonderful, but he's got a big job now in these next few days to get those players right for Betis on Thursday. But he's delivered this so far this season. United fans love him, we trust him, so we see what happens, but it's a big test.
How are Liverpool now? I mean, everyone's going to be saying they're back and this is the glory days again, back to the heavy metal football. But
they're not. I have to say, I'm just saying this, at half-time, I thought Manchester United were the better team. I thought United were the better team. I thought they looked more authoritative, more experienced. I thought Liverpool really vulnerable at the back, a little bit anxious. And then they got the goal, and we say goals change games. Well, we didn't think goals would change the game in the way in which Roy Keane coming out before half-time said Manchester United will come back in this second half, they'll get a chance. I felt that. I felt Manchester United would come back. What's just happened is a massive shock, but those players have got to live with that. They've got to own what's just happened out on that pitch, because it was them wearing those shirts.
I said before the game, Martin, 1 o'clock today when the show started, the big thing for me today was, of course, Liverpool needed to win in terms of getting back into the top 4 and this season, but I also made a comment that I felt like Manchester United coming here today was about Liverpool almost sending a message to them about next season. And people might say, why say that there's 13 or 14 games to go? But I think Liverpool have been in the ascendancy ahead of Manchester United so far the last 4 or 5 years, and that hasn't happened a lot in the last 20 years. And I think this sort of frustration is in United win, you know, the cup last week. There's a lot of talk the last few weeks, the players they brought in, the leadership, everything they do now is
quadruple.
Is perfect, quadruples on. But I do feel there's something inside Liverpool. What they've done the last 4 or 5 years was a bit like today. Get back in your box. You know, we'll see you next season type of thing. I don't think Liverpool will catch up to Manchester United this season. Liverpool will absolutely bite your hand off a fourth right now. But I do think there was also a message a bit like, this club's not done. We're not finished under this Jurgen Klopp era. Yes, this has been a tough season for all of us, but I think a result like that just lets everybody know still the quality in this Liverpool, and they will have to go again in the summer. We all know that. But Liverpool will be right up there again next season.
He's been harder on Liverpool than I have ever been in the last month or so, because to be fair, I think that what Jurgen Klopp's done in this last 4 years, 5 years, he's built up enough credit that I think he's entitled to a season off where his team underperform, where you're allowed to transition your squad. He spent 100 million net compared to Manchester United spending £500 million net in this last 4 years, and he's delivered 6 trophies to Manchester United's Carabao Cup. So from my point of view, you know, we had a period in the mid-2000s where we didn't win a trophy for a couple of years. It was a real struggle. And you're allowed that little bit, you know, when you've built up, you've proven it. These players at Liverpool and this manager have proven over 5-6 years they can live in the very highest elite environment in Champions Leagues and title fights and obviously winning a title. So for me, at Liverpool, I would never write Liverpool off. But let's be clear, they're not back to where they were 3 years ago, because where they were 3 years ago is one of the highest levels you'll see. You know, when they were chasing City down in that title race and it got to 9900 points, whatever it was, and they never made a mistake, that team were unbelievable at that time. So for me, no, they're not back to where they were, and today I think it's a big moment for them, because you know they have got to finish the season well. They have got to look towards the summer. The owners are trying to bring a level of investment in here to furnish Jurgen Klopp with the money that they need to compete with what Chelsea, Manchester United, City and Arsenal have invested, and probably others as well. I mean, there are clubs at the lower part of the table that have invested more than Jurgen Klopp.
Jamie, do you think there was a point, particularly with those three goal away defeats, where Jurgen Klopp was beginning to think, well, maybe my time is up? There was media suggestion of that. Will that have reinvigorated him over 90 minutes today?
Yes, I mean, you know, every manager talks about that Saturday night feel. I hear David Moyes mentioning that, you know, you just want to win and enjoy that night after the game. But I don't think at any stage, I don't know, only Jurgen Klopp knows that he was thinking, you know, I've signed a new 4-year deal. Have I made the right decision? This is going to be a big job to turn this round. And the reason I possibly have been a lot tougher than Gary is that maybe I see a lot more of the games. And my point was, it wasn't the defeats, it was the manner of them. Those 3-0 defeats weren't unlucky. They could have been 4 or 5, and that was a big worry for me. And I think if there was a Mo Salah's interview before the game, he mentioned the fact that Jordan Henderson, James Milner, they were having meetings after games, certainly on the back of, I think, a Wolves defeat as well. And that was the big worry in terms of actually the performances and how far Liverpool had to get back to being back among the top teams. But listen, let's not forget, and I've said this consistently when talking about Manchester United, you're never as bad as you think. Now, I'm more emotional about Liverpool, so maybe I've been a little bit too much or too critical at different times, but 2 or 3 players in the summer, Liverpool can be right back. Look at Manchester United now. They're on for 3 cups. They were never really in the shout for the league, in my opinion, but we watched them here less than 12 months ago get beat 4-0. As bad a performance as probably what we've just seen here tonight, and then they're in the ascendancy above Liverpool. It can change really quickly, and that's why I do have belief in Liverpool being back among the contenders next season with 2 or 3 signings, because Man United are proof of that this season.
Just to move it on, because you would have thought that we were sitting down here, we'd be talking about Arsenal's extraordinary ending, stealing the show for the weekend. This has obviously overtaken that, but looking back at yesterday, and there was a moment when Bournemouth were winning by 2, and it looked like there would be a real twist at the top. Did you guys feel that?
I mean, before the game, no, I went to Salford thinking that, to be fair, City had won. I thought City had a more difficult game. They were more likely to drop points in my mind yesterday, if anybody. I didn't think either team would, to be fair. So City did their job, and then you expect Arsenal to go and comfortably win. The fact that they've won in that way gives them that extra spirit and that extra momentum, because it's a game that you would expect them to win. You know, you would expect them to win 2 or 3-0, just Bournemouth a second from bottom. But they've made it really difficult for themselves. And, you know, look, they've got a real momentum, they've got a spirit building, the fans are with them. I would say to them they should stop conceding goals. It sounds like a really simple thing to say, but when you concede goals on a run, it's really tough. And they've conceded 2 against Bournemouth, they've conceded against Brentford, they've conceded against United, Villa, you know, City. They've conceded quite a few goals, I think 11 goals in the last 8 games. So they just need to manage that a little bit, because they've got, I think, 12 games to go now. City still aren't playing at their fluent best. We've got a hell of a title race.
You haven't changed your mind, though?
No, because I made my appointment. I made my prediction at the start of the season, and I'm not going to change my opinion of Manchester City. What you've got to do, the reason I've not turned on Jurgen Klopp in this last month or 2 is because what you do over a period of 5-6 years, you build up a trust and you earn the right to be thought of in a way that you're a winner and that you don't write him off. I would never write off a Jurgen Klopp team and say that's him done at Liverpool, he's finished. If Pep Guardiola lost the league this year, they've done it so many times you wouldn't rule out like a Sir Alex Ferguson team or a Jose Mourinho team back in the day. Arsenal haven't proven to me that they can handle the last 10 games of a run-in. They haven't proven that to me, and when they do, I'll take my hat off to them and say congratulations. But I'm not going to change it, because I know how difficult that 10 games is, and they could do it. But I still feel Manchester City got massive experience, and if they hunt them down in that last few weeks, it's tough. I've been hunted down 3 or 4 times and lost, and I've hunted other teams down 5 or 6 times and won. So I know how it feels. If your legs go in that last few weeks, it can be 2-3 weeks to go and it can just turn. So there's a long way to go yet. So I'm not going to change my opinion. It upsets Arsenal fans, but we need Arsenal to win the league as a Premier League. We can't have City winning it every single year. We need to change it up. It's good when, say, not particularly for me, a Liverpool win it or an Arsenal win it and then Leicester win it. We want that competitiveness. We've seen in other countries where teams win it year on and year out, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's no good.
Jamie, we haven't had the benefit on the podcast of your views on who's going to win the league. Are you with Gary that City will hunt down Arsenal?
No, I mean, to be honest, I think it's a real toss of a coin. I think Arsenal need the lead that they've got. That makes it 50-50. I think if both teams were neck and neck, I don't think there's one person out there who'd say they think Arsenal are going to win the title. I just think for me, on the back of yesterday, I think it's something we're going to look at on Monday Night Football. How many times do teams who win a title score last minute goals or score goals late? And I think it's probably happened 3 times now since the World Cup against Manchester United, Aston Villa, and yesterday against Bournemouth. There might be more to come, but title winners do that. I mean, Manchester United, the greatest example of that. But I do think for Arsenal, on the back of yesterday, I'm not sure who the game is next week, but the international break might be a good thing almost, because it's so sort of going to the last minute, that energy and the mental side it takes to sort of go to the end of every game. It might be a good little break for them if you just win that last game or a couple of games now before the international break and get there. But I'd love to see Arsenal win it. I do, for the reasons Gary's mentioned. We need something new. You know, we're talking about Haaland coming in and Manchester City running away with a title by 15, 20 points. I mean, nobody wants that. Maybe Manchester City fans, but I do think it'd be great for the Premier League if Arsenal could win, because what it would do is it'd show 5 or 6 teams in this league that they can win the league, and you can go from finishing 5th or 6th to win a title. Because in the past, you've almost felt like Manchester City and Liverpool were so far ahead in points terms that you could never get to 90 points. But what Arsenal have proven is that, you know, if Liverpool finish 5th this season, why can't they still go and win the title? And to be honest, I'd love to get back to those days where it felt like there was 5 or 6 teams at the start of every season believing they can win the league. And I think Arsenal winning the league will do that for a lot of other teams in the league. I
don't want to finish on a negative, but Tottenham and Newcastle have had the failures that Liverpool are going to benefit from. They're certainly closer to Tottenham and they're above Newcastle now. Is there a theme in there? It's not scoring, really, is the common theme. One shared with Chelsea as well, but they did get one from a set piece to beat Leeds.
Yeah, Liverpool are going to go. Liverpool are going to have a right good go at getting into top 4. They're actually going to have a big impact on the title race by playing City and Arsenal. We should mention that, I think, in the next few weeks, because this is, I mean, I think City play at the Etihad, and I think that, to be fair, Arsenal come here. So there is going to be a sort of swing there somehow. But on Tottenham and Newcastle, I said a few weeks ago I didn't think Newcastle were playing well enough. They were stumbling into games, not getting goals, and I think they would struggle to get to top 4. But I never expect them to get top 4 at the start of the season, so I don't feel that's a disappointment or a criticism. If they finish 5th, that would be an unbelievable season, I think, for Eddie Howe and for Newcastle, in terms of how they've been quite measured, the ownership, since they've come in. For Tottenham, I mean, obviously they haven't got the manager on the side of the pitch at this moment in time. That does have an impact. And I think that, looking at Tottenham, they could still finish top 4, because Conte just has a way of getting over the line. But
they won 10 of their last 14 games last season, but they don't really look like doing that now.
They don't look as happy as a bunch, do they, as they were before. But I think looking at Liverpool, and I've been thinking Liverpool or Tottenham, and it'll whoever's finishing the season. Look, Liverpool, I think, have got now City, Arsenal and Chelsea, I think, in 3 out of the next 4. So there's still some tough games for them to come after this. If they, say, lose 2 of those and draw 1, they could be well down there, Liverpool. So it's still really much in the mix. There's quite a long way to go. But this will give Liverpool real confidence for getting that 4th place. I don't think Newcastle will do it. I think Tottenham are the only other one with Conte's experience and know-how, and he's been around the block enough times to still get in there, and so he's the one that's most dangerous for me.
We've seen Newcastle a couple of times, and you were at the Carabao Cup final. Are they just finding a bit of a level now, and the lack of goals hurts any team?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing that stands out. I wouldn't actually say it's the performances. I thought they performed well against Liverpool with 10 men. I thought they performed well in the Carabao Cup final. Even yesterday at Man City, some of the chances they missed, it wasn't, a case of going there. They really went at City. I thought they performed well. I probably got a little bit more confidence in them than Gary, in that their actual performance I still think are very good, but they're just not scoring goals right now. Callum Wilson, just since the World Cup, has just not been the same. Isak did really well when he come off. you know, in the Carabao Cup final last week. But you think of how hot they were at the start of the season, maybe someone Alma on, it was always going to be difficult to keep that ratio up of scoring probably a goal every couple of games. It felt like Almiron was doing. But the actual performances I'm still quite impressed with. With Tottenham, you just feel that like anything could blow up at any time at Tottenham. In terms of a performance or a result, something can just come out the blue. And I just think there's always a little bit of negativity around the club. They're not quite sure with the manager. Is he staying? You know, the cup defeat in midweek. I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably a better feeling around Liverpool, even though I think Tottenham this season have probably performed better in a lot of occasions. But yeah, I still favour Tottenham because I've actually looked right at the fixture list and they've got a lot more favourable fixtures than Liverpool do. But if Liverpool could win the next game, which is away at Bournemouth, and they don't play the following week because Fulham are in the FA Cup, they could get another 3 points, get to that international break. Thiago will be back, maybe Luis Diaz as well. And they could get through that week, maybe even just getting 4 or 5 points, as long as they don't lose the 3 or lose 2 and draw 1. If they could pick maybe 4 or 5 points up in that week where it's Manchester City away, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, I think they're in a great position then.
I think you said there'd be a happier feeling about Liverpool. There's certainly a happier feeling about Liverpool tonight, Gary. I'm sorry, it's your podcast. Our special guest was probably the right person for the day. You've had better days, and thank you both for your time.
I haven't won here now for 7 seasons in the Premier League. I mean,
Haven't scored.
We've scored 1 goal here in 7 seasons. That's pathetic.
And conceded 7 in one game.
We had difficult periods here where we maybe didn't win for 3 seasons, but we won games here. You can't not win for 7 seasons and only score 1 goal. That's really bad. But today I had so much hope. I had feeling that we might have lost, but it'd be tight and might lose 1-0 or 2-1, and it'd be close, but we caused Liverpool problems. That has really shocked me today, and it is what it is, isn't it?
You're needed elsewhere. Thanks for your time, boys.
Thank you.